Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio /The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there. But Malik Monk. We've been doing our prospect profiles for the NBA draft this whole time. We've done Dennis Smith. We talked about Markelle Fultz. We talked about Lonzo Ball. Let's jump into Malik Monk, one of your favorite players.
Absolutely.
In this whole draft. I mean, the guy can score in bunches, long, lanky. He's a guy that can put up a ton of points. And the biggest thing that's the biggest knock on him is his size. 6'3", a shooting guard. He's a combo guard, but he's a tweener. I think he works best at shooting guard because I don't think his handles and playmaking ability is the same of a point guard. But then again, you don't see a lot of 6'3" shooting guards. But the one guy, and this the reason why this is titled, is Dwyane Wade. Dwyane Wade, similar measurables coming out of college. Malik Monk, 6'3", 185. Dwyane Wade coming out of college, 6'4", I think 210. So very similar play styles as well. Similar in the fact that they like to score. And measurables there, but obviously different play styles. But he can become a guy like D Wade, where he does start to drive a little bit more, and he's more of a 3-point shooter. So looking at D Wade and Malik Monk, do you see the potential of him becoming D Wade? Because obviously he shoots more from the outside than D Wade, and he's not as much as a playmaker, but still you see the small shooting guard in him.
Yeah, I think the prospect of having someone who is a at-will scorer and who is an undersized guard, that matches up right there. And I mean that's clearly why we were thinking D Wade. I think the 3-point shot is more about the growth of the game rather than a choice D Wade had. I think when D Wade was playing, it was more like, I can win with my athleticism. I don't need to worry about developing a 3-point shot.
D Wade took 44 threes in college, and Monk's already over 150, I think.
Yeah. At the time, when you can abuse people as well as D Wade could with his athleticism,
he's at 221.
Just outrageous. Yeah. And Monk, on the other hand, with today's NBA being entirely 3-point centric, or at least that's what Steph Curry's doing. That's what's winning in the NBA. That's what teams are trying to find every golden 3-point shooter. Doesn't matter if you don't play defense because you can shoot threes. So I see that's more of a aspect of, hey, that's part of the game. That's why I'm so good at it. I'm sure that Malik Monk, if he wanted to, could develop that inside game. He could get down in the paint and lay it in. I think really the biggest thing for Malik Monk is how hot he gets versus how cold he gets, because they do come in bunches, like you said earlier, Sean. And that's both the upside and downside of Malik Monk, because he's had games against top-ranked opponents where he's shooting 7 from 11 from outside, and then at the same time 3 from 10,
1 of 9 against Louisville, yeah.
So it's rough, but the upside is that he's not afraid to shoot. It doesn't matter if he's having a cold night. One of those earlier on games that was awesome to watch was when they were going up against, I think, was it UNC?
Yeah, 47 points or something like that. I mean, 8 of 12 from 3.
Absolutely bonkers. He can go off against the top talent in college.
Yeah, and that's the thing where you talked about how the game's changing. D Wade, a Chicago kid, grew up watching Jordan. Malik Monk probably watched, a guy like Kobe, where, he's able to step it out. He's able to score just in general, where D Wade's more of this team leader. But, Monk's also leading Kentucky in a different way. He's more of this guy who's going to score and step up big. And D Wade was a guy that did that as well. I mean, you look at the 2006 finals, he was the guy that carried them in that 2006 finals. So I see, the kind of similarities where it comes to scoring.
He wants to be clutch.
Yeah, and he does. I mean, he can penetrate. It's not his game, but he can penetrate, and you can see that ability where he could become a D Wade in the fact where he can drive to the lane, and then go to the line. So I see the potential of him becoming a guy like D Wade, because again, he stepped up in big moments before. He's a guy that can score like D Wade. He's a guy that can end up playing like D Wade, but he also does something that D Wade has never been able to do. I mean, Malik Monk, one of the big knocks on him early on was his inconsistency shooting from 3, but now he's got it over 41% from 3, and you see his ability to shoot. So, and even then, when the 3-point line steps back a little bit, he's still going to be able to do that, where he's got that DeMar thing where he can probably shoot some mid-range jumpers.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of D Wade's best best components.
Dirty.
So
absolutely, yeah.
I see a lot of scoring in Malik Monk, and he's a good ball handler. He's a guy that can handle the ball and be a point guard in some situations if you need to. It's just really the size that's probably the biggest worry, because D Wade now he's grown to like 6'5", and he's a bulkier guy.
He's put on, well, A, he had more weight in college, and B, he's continued to put on more weight, but at the same time, D Wade came out of college. He played an extra year in college, didn't he?
Yeah, he played. D Wade played technically played only 2 seasons, but he was redshirted his freshman year. So
he was older at the same time, and I think that Malik Monk will kind of build up his strength and fill out his body a little bit better to be able to compete at the NBA level. But I think for all the naysayers saying you're too small to play shooting guard in the NBA, you don't have the handles to be to be a point guard. I think that is just people are afraid to aim out.
He doesn't have the handles. I think it's more playmaking, like his playmaking ability, like play vision, his passing as well. I think he's got the handles.
Okay, fair to admit that. Yeah, I think maybe a little bit of that's greed and a little bit of youth right there, and I want to be the guy. I think it comes down to is, yes, he's not the prototypical shooting guard of today's NBA. He's not going to go out there and be able to be that tweener between a 2 and a 3. And, what we talk about today and like having these players who can literally just do it all. No, he's not going to be that guy. But what he can do for you is he can absolutely light you up from the outside. He can provide instant scoring. And that's why he has such good upside.
And that's another thing, too, where, and we'll get into where he's going to go, but and we'll get into the upside a little bit more. But you see his ability to shoot, and you see Brad Stevens take a guy like Isaiah Thomas and put him off screens. You see a guy like Frank Vogel take Terrence Ross and put him off screens. DeMar DeRozan, the same thing. You see these players and the way that they're used in sets. I see Malik Monk being a guy that can create his own shot, but then also come off screens and be able to shoot, because you see his ability to shoot at a high percentage. You see his ability to be quick and explosive. A guy that can come off screens and then drive to the lane as well. He's a guy that's very explosive. He's a guy that can jump high. He's a guy that's very athletic. So that's why I see the D Wade in him, where he can finish at the rim, and he's quick and he's explosive, but he has also got a sweet stroke. So that's something where I see him, and I think that Malik Monk can truly be something special. I think that I look at his game, and yes, he's not going to be the guy that's going to be able to get a triple-double for you like Markelle Fultz. He's not going to be a team leader in the sense that Lonzo Ball has been for UCLA, and I think he can translate to the NBA. He's not a guy like Dennis Smith, who is hyper athletic, but Malik Monk is just a scorer.
He's a pure scorer.
And that's something that can translate.
Yep.
Dennis Smith, he goes down with another ACL injury. I see Malik Monk, still being able to stay there. We saw D Wade go down with a ton of injuries. He's still killing it in Chicago. Yeah. I see Malik Monk is probably the guy that is probably the least, not the highest ceiling, probably the safest ceiling. He's got the closest ceiling and floor.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not that much of a dip. And really, he can hit the stratosphere, which is D Wade, but then he can play in that mid-level, which I believe we brought up as Lou Williams.
Yeah, we were talking about Lou Williams being an interesting comparison for him because size-wise and, maybe early on in his career, he's not going to be, starting for a team. He could be depending on which way he goes to, but he would be an excellent addition off the bench. He would come in and give you that energy, give you the ability to just be like, hey, we're going to run the offense through him for a little bit, give our stars a break, and he will be comfortable doing it. He will be happy to get that ball in his hands and just jack up shots. And I think that not only, Lou Williams was an interesting one because obviously his recent success, he's been notably one of the best 6 men in the league for a couple of years now, and now he's moved to the Rockets and made them redonkulous. But I think, another guy with similar area, either, bottom end of Ben McLemore, middle range like CJ, like there's a lot of these guys who are we're adding an inch here or there and a little bit of weight, but it's not out of consideration to say he can't either continue growing. He's 19.
Yeah. You
don't finish growing at 19 and you continue to add muscle mass because with NBA trainers, it's your job to work out. It's your job to be in shape. And I completely could see him fit in that similar range.
And that's the thing with Malik Monk. You see, when I watch him, you see a kid who, when I see him, I look at him like a guy like who's just, he hit a growth spurt and just never ate enough. Like he seems like he's like, when I first saw him play, I'm like, how tall is this guy? Like 6'7"? Like he just looks so lanky, and he just looks so like a stick figure. Or if he builds up, he might come into his height more. But even the Lou Williams comparison, when Lou Williams came out of high school, he was the 7th best player, or ranked the 7th player in high school. Malik Monk, the 9th player in the last class. So I look at the ability of Malik Monk and his ability to score, and I think it's going to be necessary, and he's going to be able to have a long career in the NBA. It's just more, can he be an all-star, or is he a starter, or is he like a six-man or like scoring specialist? And I think
this league and in this draft where we're talking about how high the top end for these players can go, trying to say he's a top 5 pick, trying to say, is he top 5, is he top 7, where's he going to land in that range? It's dangerous to say and be like, you know what, he might just be a great 6th man.
Mm-hmm. And before we get into like where he's specifically going to go, when you look at all these players, Fultz, Ball, Smith, you look at Jonathan Isaac, you look at De'Aaron Fox, you look at all of these players, Tatum, Josh Jackson, where do you see Monk, like at least rating-wise? Because at least for me, I have Fultz at number 1, Ball at number 2, I have Monk at 3, now I have Jackson, and then I have Dennis Smith. And it's really because of recently the ability for Malik Monk to show me that his game can be something that translates. And Josh Jackson has a higher ceiling. Dennis Smith has a higher ceiling. But if I'm looking at players, I see the skill in Malik Monk, I see his ability to score, and I see a guy that has been able to step up in second halves of games. I mean, and Josh Jackson's the same thing, but I don't see the problems with Josh Jackson of him being so big. He's the same size as Malik Monk, or he was similar coming out of high school. Josh Jackson was 6'7", 185 coming out of high school. Malik Monk, 6'3", 185. Jackson's now added more weight to him and size to him. Malik Monk has stayed the same. So I think that there's so much room to grow for Malik Monk, and then he'll be able to, we'll kind of talk about his potential, where Josh Jackson, he's going to grow a little bit more, but I think we see what we're going to get, and as him coming in as a rookie.
He has NBA level qualities already.
Where I think Malik Monk is going to grow in the NBA, at least from prospect wise, where he's going to come in as a guy that maybe he'll be a 6 man, but then if he grows up and gets more size to him, then he might be able to be a guy that's going to be an all-star for you, where Josh Jackson coming in, it's all-star bust. That's where I see where Malik Monk has a lot of room to grow. Yeah,
that's interesting. As far as the top 5 for myself, I think I agree with you with Markelle Ball 1, 2. Then it gets dicey because I want to put Josh Jackson at 3 because we have seen that explosion out of him lately. The reason
good rebounder too.
All around. He is a huge asset to your team, offensively and defensively. Monk, the only reason I'm going to dock him down to, and I even want to see. I want to say Dennis is even higher potential than him. I want to put Monk at 5, and that's where I feel safe. Look, I am one of the biggest guys, a bigger proponent of Malik Monk being one of the most talented players, but it's the hot, cold, it's the inconsistencies, and while you say he turns down for the second half of games, it's where the hell were you for the first half of the game? Because we've watched games where he sits on his hands for an entire half, and then, he can show up in the second half and knock down 7 shots for you. Awesome. But it's where is this just a college, like, hey, the game plan is to feed the ball down low for the first half and we make adjustments at halftime? Or is it I didn't feel like showing up for a while and then we started going down a little, so I'm going to jump in here? Like, I don't think I understand quite like how to quantify, like, here's how come you're so successful in these short bursts, but overall your game plan, I don't know if it levels out.
And there's one thing too where I look at, Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson isn't the best player on Kansas. Frank Mason is. Where I look at Malik Monk, and I would say he's the best player in Kentucky right now. I would say he's better than Bam. He's better than De'Aaron Fox. I don't think of any of the other guys where they're seniors and juniors. I think he and Bam are
pretty close.
I would take Malik Monk just because of his ability to score. I know you love Bam. I know you love him. But
I think it's just a college matchup thing that I love about him, is because he can be so dominant down low in college. In college, I think he is super valuable because of that. Because not every team has a matchup that's going to be even close to that. But I agree with you. De'Aaron Fox is a 3 on that team.
Yeah, and I know we're not, this is the primetime podcast here, but I think Kentucky's a dangerous team, especially the role that they just hit against Vandy, where they came back. That showed me a lot for at least a team. That's going to play into my bracket. But let's move to where you think he will actually end up, and this is using the current lottery standings as of 3/3/2017. So right now, Boston's number 1, LA's number 2, Phoenix is number 3, Orlando's 4, and Philly's number 5. Do you think he falls out of that top 5 at all, or do you think he's going to stay in that top 5?
I think that he is going to stay in that top 5, because if Philly is at 5, I think that's the right move for them to make, assuming that all 3 point guards above him are gone. So I'm going with, obviously Markelle, Ball, and Dennis above him. I think it lines up that way that, Yeah, I think 5 is kind of the stopping point for him.
Yeah, I look at number 1, and Boston's either going to go Ball or Fultz, whoever they feel more comfortable with. I would say Fultz, so I'm going to put Fultz there. Yep. LA, I think that if Ball's there, there's no way they're passing up an LA kid with that ability, and he might be able to bring cohesion to those young kids that he has, and his ability to shoot might entice Luke Walton. The third with Phoenix, they're just so guard heavy. Bledsoe, the guy I always mess up his name, the guy Brandon Knight,
Bledsoe, Knight, Booker,
and then Booker, and even the guy
Tyler Ulis.
I think there's too many guards there, and you see the spot that they have at 3 where T.J. Warren, he's got a lot of ability, but I think he's more of a 6-man. That's why I think Josh Jackson, a guy, he might step in.
That'd be a great fit.
And he can bring that driving aspect where Booker's that deadly shooter from the outside. Orlando, that's where I think it gets interesting. I think they're going to end up going Dennis Smith, but I wouldn't be too shocked if they did go Malik Monk there.
I just don't want Monk to go there. I'll be honest with you.
I don't blame you.
As a fan of basketball, I don't want to watch him on Orlando.
I don't blame you because Shaq, T-Mac, the other guy that's Dwight Howard. They never thrive in Orlando. You see little peaks. Maybe Shaq and Dwight Howard will get to the NBA Finals or right to it, but they're never going to take that step over. They always got to go to L.A. or L.A. for both of them.
L.A.
or Houston for both Dwight and T-Mac.
Yeah.
I think it's either going to be Smith or Monk at 4 or 5.
I think Peyton has just not been everything they hoped he would be in Orlando.
And even if he is, you can at least put Monk as the scorer. And I think Smith would be too thirsty to pass up because of what you said.
That's
with
what
Peyton.
I think. Yeah.
So I think he's a top 5 talent. Again, it's going to be what happens with the lottery and where's going to happen. We
can see some crazy ping pong ball, like tinfoil hat Ricky style stuff go down.
We miss him.
Oh. Boy, do we ever.
But the final thing I want to talk about is you saying he's going to Philly.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to fall past 5.
And we talked about it a little bit, and I want to talk about it.
Ooh.
Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Malik Monk. Say they're all healthy. What can that team do next year? They're all healthy. We'll say Embiid's on the minute restriction, but he plays the whole season.
Yep.
And Ben Simmons comes in, he plays the whole season. Malik Monk doesn't have any weird injury issues. What can that team actually be, and can they be a threat, and will they hit that 2-year mark that we talked about early in the podcast?
God, he got me grinning over here.
Full circle, Dave.
I think that they are still probably looking at a 34-win team.
It's a lot of wins for Philly. They haven't seen that in a while.
They're 23 right now, and you have to think that there's still about 20 games left in the season.
Dave, they're not winning 10 games.
There's 20 games left in the season. Just toss out there. And if you had a healthy Joel Embiid throughout the stretch that he had missed, and then for the next 20 games,
that's true.
I don't think it's insane to say that he would have won, 7 or 8 more games, putting them in that 30 to 34 range.
Then if you get Ben Simmons,
and Malik Monk, plus anything you can add in free agency, and I know it's not the sexy destination to go to Philly, but if you look around that team, you go, hey, you know what? They've got a bunch of young kids who I can go be a savvy veteran there, and I can play a good role for them and be a good mentor. I think there's some people who probably would fit. I just don't think the Philly's going to do that because they're a fuck up organization, and they don't know how to develop some people. So
see, I agree with you.
Just squash my hopes there, but I think it would be a fun team.
And I'm going to bring up every free agent that I bring up every time we talk about free agents and the possible free agent class.
No.
Who?
Jimmy Butler, Hayward, and who's next?
No, none of those guys.
I'm sorry, not even free agents. I'm sorry, I'm thinking trade.
There's one guy that I'm talking about, and even if you draft Malik Monk, it doesn't make any sense because you don't have a point guard. Well, technically you do have a point guard. Well, a starting point guard. Technically you don't have a starting point guard, even though Ben Simmons mostly going to carry up the ball.
Yep.
It's a guy, maybe he's sick of where he is because this team is always around that 4-5 spot, but they have so much talent. Maybe J.J. Redick's really intrigued by a big contract.
Never leaving.
I'm just saying, Dave. Think of it.
Yep.
Ben Simmons paired with Malik Monk, J.J. Redick, Joel Embiid, and let's say Dario Saric. You're saying that team can't win 40 games and make it to the Eastern Conference playoffs? If they're all healthy? Think of it, Dave.
I am. I still am not 100% with you. I have to watch these guys play. Look.
The shooters around Ben Simmons, his playmaking ability, the shooting of Joel Embiid.
I see what you're saying.
Could you imagine?
I just don't think it's going to happen.
I would buy a J.J. Redick jersey in a heartbeat.
You would. You would buy one now anyway, though.
That's true.
Let's be honest about that. No, I don't see it happening. I don't see them landing a splash in free agency. I see them adding a couple guys to soak up salaries so they hit the floor again.
At least play with me, Dave. Come on.
Nope.
At least have some fun with me.
Nope. Destroying hope. And I think Philly, if best case scenario, they end up with Monk, and shit, even better case scenario, what if LA somehow loses the ping pong ball lottery?
Ping pong ball lottery.
That is hard to say, okay?
Ping pong ball lottery. Ping pong ball lottery.
All right. I hate you.
Anyways.
If they lose out on that and Philly ends up with like 4-5, dude, now you're in business.
Then you get Dennis Smith and you get Malik Monk. And now I'm going to the final question. I'm going to go back to the first question.
Yep.
They get Dennis Smith, Malik Monk, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric, and Joel Embiid. Is it still 2 years, or can that team make a playoff next year?
If no one gets injured,
if no one gets injured, they've got a shot.
No,
say yes or no.
Yes.
Trust the process,
I'll say
Dave.
yes.
Trust the process. I'll
trust Malik Monk. I'll trust the shooting.
I was on shaky ground with the process. But now the fact that they're going to get Dennis Smith and Malik Monk,
lock it down.
We found Ricky's tinfoil and we got it.
Yep,
we got it. It's happening. The process is done. Call Colangelo. Anyways. This is going to wrap up this episode of the Fast Break Podcast. We talked Malik Monk. We talked about the Cavs. We talked about the process in 2 different segments. It was a fun time. Tell us your thoughts and comments down below. Where do you think Malik Monk's going to go, and what do you think of him? Can he be the next D Wade? Also, are the Cavs your favorite? And again, the process. Are you still trusting it? Is the process breaking down? Anyways, Dave, thank you so much for joining me as always, bud.
Thank you.
Thanks for shafting me, Dave. Anyways, thank you for watching on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, thank you so much for downloading us and checking us out. We hope you come back next week. But for Dave, I'm Sean. Ricky should be back next week. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Oh, shit. It's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.